Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this confessional and walkthrough. So as you saw in the title of this video, I totally have a confession to make. This is not my first time with the Starchild Tarot. So, okay, there's a bit of a story here. You see, I had the Starchild Tarot Akashic Edition, and I thought it was a really pretty deck. But I wasn't called to work with it. There was a few cards that I just didn't get on with. In fact, I even filmed a video where I did a side-by-side of the Starchild Akashic Tarot and the Moonchild Tarot, which I adore. So I will try to remember to link that up in the cards for you because it was a live sort of, I guess, side-by-side comparison, and I realized that I just wasn't getting on with the Starchild, particularly as compared to the Moonchild. Now I will say that the Moonchild is one of my very favorite decks. These are by the same artist, if you don't know, Danielle Noel. But the Moonchild Tarot, which I'm just going to show you some cards from, is so beautiful. And it really just, there was something about the coloration of this deck that just really, I don't know, there was something about this one that I really loved, and it did something for me that the Starchild just didn't. And again, as far as this, like, this is one of my favorite Page of Cups cards of all time, this one. So beautiful. I really love this deck. So I did a side-by-side and the Starchild lost that particular knockout. And funny enough, as much as I love sort of pinks and purples, I think it was actually the pinks and purples of the Akashic edition of the Starchild that turned me off a bit. I think these warmer colors, the golds and the more varied tones, the blues that come through in this deck, just spoke to me a little bit more than that sort of pinky purpley tone of the Starchild Akashic. So I traded, or sold, I can't remember, my Starchild Akashic Edition deck. And then, fairly recently, I'll say, I can't remember how, I actually think it may have been a Facebook advertisement or an Instagram post, I discovered that the Starchild First Edition was being re-released. Now, I didn't know a lot about the Starchild First Edition, and for the life of me, I could not find a sort of top-down, card-by-card, full walkthrough of the First Edition Starchild, so I'm confident that some of these cards are going to be a surprise to me. However, I did find a bit of a comparison video. I think it actually did go through all the cards, but it was more of a face-on kind of video that Ethany did back in the day. And if I remember, I will link Ethany's video up in the cards so you can kind of see the Akashic next to the First Edition Starchild Tarot. And I was like, some of the cards that I did see were so much better to me than the Akashic Edition that I wanted this deck back in my life, and I wanted this version. Now, when you pre-ordered this deck, and I think this is still an option if you go and purchase it now, there was an option to get the original Starchild First Edition box, which had this image, but there was this turquoise sort of top here. Or to get this box. I went for this box because I just think this was the one that was prettier to me. They're both gorgeous. Really nice box. This feels like the same size. I should have kept my other deck out. This feels like the same size box to me as the Moonchild Tarot. Let's just do a quick little check. It may be a little different. No, it's basically the exact... This feels the exact same size. I guess technically it's ever so slightly, yeah, it's ever so slightly wider. So let me just do it this way so you can see what I mean. I don't know if you can see from that now. See, there's a little bit wider. So the Starchild is a little bit wider. The Starchild, this version of the First Edition, I don't know if there's a different version available, has borders on the cards. And just a quick look again at the back of the box. There are some images from the card. This is the... I don't know what you would call this. It is the First Edition re-released. But there were so many changes between the First Edition and, oh, that's nice, and the Akashic Edition. So expect this to be a fairly lengthy walkthrough because I'm really looking forward to spending some time with this deck. First of all, look at this on the inside of the box. We are all Stardust. Love that. Also, this box is beautiful. Okay, you guys aren't going to be able to see it. Sad. I guess I could put it there. For now, it's not going to end up staying there. And then on the top here we have a, oh, is there more plastic? Okay, no, I'm going to set that aside. This is one of those rose petal finish soft touch little guidebooks Love that the guidebook fits inside because my Akashic edition, the guidebook was sort of separate. I don't know if there's any changes to this. Oh, it looks like there's some spreads. I'm going to be actually kind of excited to dig into this book because I'm guessing that the book has been updated, but maybe I'm wrong. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments down below. Oh, the characters of the Starseed Tarot, excuse me, the Starchild Tarot. Yeah, so thumbnails through the major arcana and then no images through the minors, which is fine. Decent amount of information. So you get a message and a reversed message as well as additional meanings. Okay, I'm loving it. I love this, the way this book feels. It feels really nice, really high quality. So it says, are you a seeker who feels a connection with the stars? Have you experienced dreams or distant memories that seem to call out from another time and place? Are you hoping to support or explore your intuition? If so, the Starchild Tarot may be a friendly ally along your path. Traveling to distant vistas of the universe, each celestial key of this deck is a tool for discovery made to help you align with your higher self and the inner landscapes of your spirit. Imbued with shimmering portals, sacred geometry, and lush motifs, the Starchild Tarot is here to take you on a multi-dimensional journey of awakening. And all of Danielle Noel's links are below. So Danielle Noel art, excuse me, themoonchildtarot.com, starchildtarot.com, and starseeddesigns.ca. I just love the cover of this book. I just want to pet this deck. So anyways, or pet the book rather. So inside the box we have, oh, I love the backs of these cards. Okay, so first of all, we have this beautiful contrast in the base of the box and the lid of the box. This is actually really nice. This is gonna sound so silly, but if you've ever had one of these 2-piece boxes and you're playing with your deck, I don't know if you're like me, but I'll put the lid and the base nearby, and I'll usually like sort of tuck the guidebook in like that, and I'll put the cards here in between kind of as I'm playing with them. The fact that the lid is this black Starry Night and the base is this sort of pinky purpley Starry Night makes it really easy to see which is the base and which is the lid. That probably sounds so silly to some of you, but like that's something that I really kind of appreciate. Okay, the moment of truth. So still that gorgeous matte gilding. What I'm gonna do is pull half the cards out and then the other half so that, you guys, I think these cards are like these are rose petal finish cards. Okay, sorry. I am literally the biggest nerd ever. The Moonchild Tarot is cardstock wise a smooth, silky matte stock. But this feels like rose petal finish, and I am living for it because you guys know I love me the rose petal finish. I don't know why I like it so much. It's just really aesthetically pleasing. But let's take a look at the backs. And I think with my new lighting setup here, I think it shows the colors a lot more true to what they look like in real life. I'll be able to see when I edit the video, but in the viewfinder anyways, it looks like these are going to be pretty true to color, which is very exciting. And the nice thing too about rose petal finish cards is that they don't reflect any light at all. Okay, I'm living for it. I'm going to zoom us in a bit, maybe more than a bit. We'll see how we do here. I think that's probably about good. I'm going to move the box and the book out of the way a little bit. These are so pretty. Okay, so we're starting off with the Starseed, which is, I believe, key 0. And interestingly, I don't think, let's bring it up. I don't think there's actually a number at all on this card. I think it just literally says Starseed. Loving the sort of potential of this card and the third eye light right here at the center of her forehead. I really like this image. These backs though, these backs. I am loving this. Okay, I love this Magician. This feels a lot like the original. I love the sort of divided colors happening up here with this sort of peekaboo center of the eye shape in the sky into the cosmos. I really, really enjoy this image. The High Priestess. I love her. I almost can't even remember my Starchild Akashic because I don't know what it was. A lot of the cards started to feel very samey to me, but these don't at all. The Empress. Oh, I love this image. Okay, I don't recognize this image for sure. I love all the blooming flowers and gardens at the base of her feet. I love the way that her gown is flowing, and I love that I can feel like I feel like I see, does that even make sense? I see her heart chakra lit up, and I'm just curious. I feel like I'm getting serious chakra vibes from these cards, and I'm not sure, maybe not all of them, but I'm living for these backs though. Like, I just, oh, so beautiful. Love this Empress though. I love how rich and bountiful and just lush this card is. And I love the way, I even love her physical posture, the way she's got the hands right at her collarbones and she's looking up. Like, it's a very potent and powerful card, but there's still this like softness and femininity to it that I really, really love. Okay, so this I definitely remember. One of my beefs with the Starchild Akashic is that the lion featured in the Emperor card looked more like a lioness. And this is a lion with a mane, and this makes me so dang happy. I love the way this is, I love this. I love that you see the sand. I love the potency and the power here and the masculinity. I love the pyramid in the background. There's a thing about, I would say, Danielle Noel's decks. They do have a very otherworldly feel, and I actually really am enjoying the borders on this deck, which I didn't think I would say. I love the borderless feel of the Moonchild, where it only has the titles, I believe, on the bottom. I was just looking at it, but I can't remember. But I really like these. These borders feel, they don't feel too distracting. I really enjoy that. The Hierophant. This feels like sort of a passing the torch kind of energy to me. Like, are you going to take up this power that is being passed on to you? Are you going to follow this tradition? I think that really works for me. And interestingly, I think the shifts in color from the Akashic are really working for me here. And I'm sure that as this deck gets delivered to people who have pre-ordered it, you're going to start to see some side-by-side videos, and that'll really help you get a feel for color. This is one of the cards that made me pull the trigger on this deck, because there was something about the lovers in the Akashic edition that I just did not get along with. They didn't feel relatable to me. They didn't feel passionate to me. There was something just missing, but I love this. I love this so, so much. I'm going to actually bring it up a little closer to the viewfinder. It's interesting to me because they feel young. They feel very literally wrapped up in one another. But to me, I can tell, like, this one here, this figure here looks like female at first glance. But interestingly, this figure here feels to me to be a little more ambiguous. I feel like I could easily see that as a female or feminine figure. I could see this as like a gender neutral kind of figure or as a masculine figure. Just the body positioning and body language kind of takes me away from that a little bit. While I do think this person looks more traditionally feminine at first glance, and this isn't going to be important to everybody, but it's something that's helpful to me when I feel like there's a little bit of ambiguity in gender within the Lovers card, because I think it makes that card more accessible to me personally. Even more ambiguity can be better, but this card is so much better than the Lovers from the Akashic edition, and that was one of my sort of almost basically deal breaker cards from that version of this deck, that I am so happy to see this Lovers card. I love that. Okay. Enough about that. A unicorn in the Chariot card is never going to make me sad. I actually really enjoy the color in this deck. I like that you almost get this sort of overexposed photograph feel where it looks like it's kind of true to color along this side, and then you almost get this like pinky purpley bleeding in, like you found a photo that had been hit by too much sunlight. There's just something about that I really appreciate in this image. Justice. I really like this too. Again, we're getting some shocks of like sort of flatter color here, which I actually really like. And I love the two tigers. There's a balance and an equilibrium to this card, which I really enjoy. And weirdly, these, I don't know if it's what these are supposed to be, but there's these sort of symbols, or there's something here draped over these poles. And to me, they look almost as if they were masks that have, sounds weird, but it's kind of like a Rorschach, right? You see what you see. These almost look like masks that have been kind of melted onto these poles at either side, as if all masks have been removed and the situation is being seen clearly. And it's interesting because I did not get this much intuitively out of the Akashic edition, and I feel like already in this edition I'm getting a lot more. I love this Serenity card for the Hermit. This really works for me. I feel like I can see all the chakras in alignment. I love the standing stones in the background because, as some of you may know, if you've watched my Eclectic Witchcraft series, in the episode where I talked about circle casting, which if I remember I will link up in the cards, I explained that one of my methods, my primary method for circle casting, involves standing stones, and that's immediately what this makes me think of. It makes me think of sacred space. I can actually see what looks to me to be the lotus glyphs the different petaled lotuses for the chakras very faintly in this image. Especially here, I can see the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, and then it starts to get a little harder to see them, at least at my angle. But I love the colors in this. I'm not as fond of this sort of pink circle here, but again, this feels like a card of sacred space, of a circle that's been cast, or of a being sort of between the worlds, and I love that. Yeah. The Wheel of Fortune. This is one that I have struggled with in all editions of this deck. However, again, I think the increased sort of contrast between the different colors in the deck, there's something about it that just brings me into the card more. I do think we see somebody here who could be, you know, about to experience a shift in fortune. I think that could be one way to look at this card. Actually, you know what? It's my channel. I do what I want here. Let's see what it says in the wheel card. I can interrupt this walkthrough. I can do that. Let's see what it says. Just as the seasons change in an everlasting cycle of energy, so does the path of your life. For every situation, there tends to be an archetypal opposite that keeps the balance intact. Understanding the Wheel of Fortune signifies a state of acceptance that things may be good or bad at any given time. Do not be discouraged by the difficulties or low points. These too will pass, and you can kind of see that. It's almost like she's having a moment where she's feeling a little bit of frustration or despair, or feeling a little down on her luck, right? In modeling unconditional love and gratitude, it is easier to identify the positive moments as they come and to attract more abundance into your life. Know that sometimes you may need to take a leap into the unknown in order to move forward. You alone have the power to create the life you desire and to overcome any challenges along the way. Look for the lessons instead of giving in to struggle. This is what the wheel is all about, after all. Ooh, and there's questions like journal prompts. So that's where my brain goes anyway. How can I learn from the choices I've made? How can I set my intention in order to attract more love and abundance into my life? And then there's also more that it gets into when you're looking at the reversed. So I really like that. Also, I really like the way that the guidebook is written. So that was kind of a fun little segue. And that actually works for me with this image. Love Strength card. She seems like a bad you know what, and I am here for it. She definitely seems like she's in her power. I feel like she is the lion and the lion is her. They're like a unified team, and this feels, I love this. I love the potency of this. Perspective for the Hanged Man. I dig it. I dig it for sure. And I love the way that kind of flowing through her hair here are the cosmos, is the universe. You get this idea that she's connected to oneness. She's aware of all that is and could be. There's definitely enlightenment happening here. I love that. Transformation. This for the Death card really, really works for me. There's almost a psychedelic feel to this card, but you definitely get the feeling of that sort of white light and that tunnel that you would travel through, and sort of the call, right? The knowing that this is your time. And interestingly, this really works for me. And again, I'm talking sort of off the cuff what comes to mind as I look at the image, but I love the way that there's this glowing light right where her hands are, and she's turning to face the light as if her body is already becoming the light that she's being drawn towards. This also, just because of timing of when I'm filming this, reminds me of the bridges and the gateways that open in the YA fantasy book The Bone Crier's Moon, which I recently talked about and loved. So this immediately gives me that sort of feeling. I love this sort of deep crescent moon in the sky. Yeah, no complaints. Love this card. Man, this is going to be long if I keep saying this much about every card. Temperance. Yes, and I think this turquoise design here is what is on the original lid of the box, sort of up here. Oh, yeah, no, we haven't encountered that card yet. I really enjoy this. I enjoy the two cups at either side and this sort of arch over top that kind of gives you that feel of balancing the two, of moderating the two, neither in extreme. That really works for me. Oppression for the Devil. I love this whole shadowy figure, this being cloaked and kind of covered up. And it's interesting, what's she juggling here? We have a feather, the earth, looks like a coin, and a crystal. Really interesting. The tower, and she literally looks like she's been flung off of the tower. It's an interesting perspective because instead of focusing on the actual physical structure of the tower, this card is focused on the person who has been flung off of the tower. And it looks like maybe even into the sea. The Star. This is so beautiful. I love this sort of This makes me think of the 1,000-petal lotus. It makes me think of the crown chakra. It makes me think of Atman, or the pure self. It makes me think of sort of purity and healing. And here we have our figure here in the foreground who just looks like she's about to dip her hand into some healing waters. I love that image. The moon. Ooh. This feels so cool to me. So typically the traditional imagery of the moon, we would see sort of this invitation to walk past the domestic and the wild. We would see a canine, like a dog, a domesticated dog, and then we would also see a wolf, a wild canine. And you sort of walk between the two. The path is between the two, and you're coming, kind of rising up out of your subconscious. We have the crayfish there representing all the stuff that kind of bubbles up from deep within. And this makes me think of certain journey work and path working, not path working, but certain types of meditative journeys and astral travel journeys that I've done, and where I've connected with sort of ancestral, magical ancestors, I guess I would say, or spiritual ancestors. And this feels like a call from them to step into your fear, like step in and work on your stuff. This is really cool. I love this. I don't know why that just gave me so many like hits. I love the crispness and clarity in the Sun card. That's often what I want to see. I feel like the Sun card sort of lays us bare, right? It's this opportunity to be fully exposed and to be filled with joy in who we are. Love that. Awakening as our Judgment card. I really enjoy this. This works for me on so many levels. I love the sea. I love the colors. It's a little bit more ambiguous than a lot of sort of Judgment cards are, but this, maybe because of my own association with the sea, this really works for me. I just keep saying this works for me, so obviously I'm getting along with this edition. I love the world. I love this perspective that she seems to have. She's sort of out and by herself and dancing and celebrating. I like that she has this veil on her, which to me kind of speaks to that ring that we normally see around the dancer in the world card. And we have the sort of vision of the earth off in the distance, as if she is on another planet or on a star and looking down on the earth. It's a shift in perspective, and it speaks to me of sort of spiritual evolution. Love that. Okay, so we are into the suits, and as I recall, crystals are the earthly suit. So this is like the pentacle suit, and it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, we have sort of this nod to the earthly alchemical symbol happening in the background. So that is how I'm going to view this for now, and we'll see if I turn out to be wrong, but I think I am correct. So Ace of Crystals, Two of Crystals. I love this. I love that she doesn't seem super relaxed. Like she's definitely managing both in her hands here. The Three of Crystals, and this feels like a spiritual collaboration for me more. It feels like she's working with her guides, with her spirit guides, her animal guides. And the Four of Crystals, I like that she's in the forest here and seems at home, seems content with what she has. Still isolated though, which is something I kind of look for in the imagery of the Four of Crystals. The Five of Crystals. This one I think is very similar to the Akashic. It works for me. I don't feel like I need a lot in this card because I know the meanings of the cards really well, but I would say this is definitely more of an ambiguous Five of Crystals. We don't see a figure here, but we do definitely see an invitation to look up, to see where the help is, or to see where the connection is, which I think is off in the distance through this portal. And I do see, actually, now that I'm looking closer, and I don't think I ever noticed this in the Akashic, so maybe it wasn't a thing, but there are different animal faces. For sure there's like a feline looking face here. There almost looks like there's a skull here. I'd have to probably, I don't know if I'll be able to see it when I edit the video, but like in person, it's a little, I think that might be a human face. I think there's different faces in these, which is interesting, and it kind of speaks to me of like, you're not ever alone. Like you always have sort of spiritual companions or guides that are there to help you, angels, if that's how you see it. Really enjoy that. The Six of Crystals is interesting because we see a figure down here, and it looks like it could be literally the same person who's a little bit like maybe down on her luck or whatnot, and then we have this person who's very much in her abundance, who has something to share, to give. Interesting to see it as sort of a version of yourself, right? Like where could you give yourself some of that, some of your energy, some of your resources. Really cool self-care message there. The Seven of Earth, or the Seven of Crystals, and again I see a nod to different chakras here, and that makes sense because of course we're looking at the number 7. There are 7 chakras in the energy body. This, I've never noticed chakra kind of associations in the Starchild Tarot before, so I don't know if these weren't in the Akashic or if they were just harder to see because of the coloration, but I love this. And I love the idea that working towards wholeness is a process that we invest in. It's a process that takes time, just like planting seeds, as we might see in a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith system. So I actually see this as sort of a chakra balancing card, which is interesting, kind of a work on oneself kind of card. I love that. Can't get over the finish on these cards. It's so lovely. And it's that smoother rose petal finish, not that kind of sticky kind. Okay, back at it here. We have the 8 of crystals, and we have these 8 sort of beautiful, sort of perfect repeats of the same crystal. So I think the message there from the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith of sort of doing those repetitive things, but doing them well and mastering your craft, I think that's definitely present in this imagery. The 9 of crystals, and I believe this is the Archer, so Sagittarius, is that right? I am not always the best with my constellations, but I love that the way that this card is depicted, I can immediately see that. And the 9 of crystals, and the 9 of earth is often about that sort of having really been able to sort of stop and enjoy your life, the things that you've poured your energy, time, and effort into. Enjoying your wealth or enjoying your abundance. I'm kind of curious what the guidebook says about this card too, and I'm going to read about it because I can and I want to. I'm still so sassy. I was sassy when I made my favorites video. I'm still sassy now. Okay, 9 of crystals. A wonderful card. The 9 of crystals represents the culmination of all of your efforts and hard work. You've learned an abundance of things along the way, which has led to your heightened state of spiritual awareness. Through the exploration and manifestation of your dreams, you have found your place within the universe and are radiating loving energy. You now look to the next stage of your life with a new and bright perspective. Perhaps you'll want to spend more time in nature or with the people you love. Perhaps you will take a more spiritual route in your learning. You're aware of the larger scope of your being and are ready to move on to your next phase of enlightenment. A time to enjoy life's simple pleasures. And with that sort of idea in mind, this makes me think of sort of lying in your backyard, if you had like a big backyard, and just staring up at the stars at night. Just a contentment, right? More material contentment. The 10 of crystals is much more pippish in this deck, and there are quite a few cards in the Starchild in general that are a little bit more pippish, but I love the sort of culmination that you see physically in this card with all of these crystals arranged. I'm not clear on if this is shaped quite as much like the Kabbalah Tree of Life as we're used to seeing in the 10 of Pentacles. I'd be curious to see if it addresses it, and I'm not going to read the whole entry, but I'm going to just see a card of stability and completion. Yeah. Culmination. Yeah, it feels like almost like a completed crystal grid, like you've just placed the last crystal into place, although I know we're looking up at the night sky and the stars, but it has that sort of feeling to me. The Page of Earth or the Page of Crystals. I really like this image, and I'm not putting my finger on exactly what it is, but I know that the page is an energy. Oh, there's that portal from the, is that the same portal from the front? I keep looking for the portal. Yeah, I think that's the same portal. Well, it's a bit of the same portal. Access to resources is what's coming through when I look at this card, like sort of knowing where to go for the right resources. I love that. The Knight of Crystals, somebody who's going to take their time, take care, enjoy the journey more than the destination, or as much as the destination. The Queen of Earth here, I love how like she just feels almost like a baby Empress energy for sure. Not baby, but like a younger Empress. I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for, but like a minor Arcana Empress. And we know that the queens are sort of the empresses of their suit, right? So this makes a lot of sense to me. She's got a lot of personal power in this card, but yet she's seated on the earth. She's very connected. She's in bare feet. She's definitely comfortable with herself. Love that. The King of Crystals. I do think the kings in this deck and all the people in general do tend to look pretty young. This is not new for the Starchild or the Moonchild in general. So he looks a little young to me as a king, but he also looks like he's got business handled, right? And I also like, again, the nod to the chakra there at the heart center, and I really feel like that kind of makes me think of like, okay, he is a manager. He is somebody who's going to be in charge. He's going to be like that sort of minding his money kind of person, but he's not necessarily doing that from a mean-spirited or greedy place when he's at his best. So that's what the heart chakra, like light, makes me think of. And then we have swords for swords. So we have our ace. I I really enjoy this too. I can't remember in the Akashic, but I like that behind her is sort of this almost like dynamic sort of star field behind her. Again, I'm noticing where the lights are on her body, and I'm seeing heart chakra again. And I don't think that's an accident. The Three of Swords. This is really interesting because the first thing I notice is that she's on the ground and her dress or her outfit seems made of like icy crystals. So in fact, it specifically looks like some kind of like aura treated or titanium treated crystal, like an aura quartz of some kind. And it's making me feel like she's hardened around the core of herself, right? Through her heart, through her like more vulnerable parts of herself as a response to having learned lessons the hard way or been hurt. So she's more guarded. She's more impenetrable in that way. She's toughened in a way. And I think that really works for the Three of Swords. The Four of Swords, loving all the black cats in this card. I think that's super cool. And loving that she seems to be just taking a moment and taking some time, but she doesn't seem unguarded, which is really interesting. The Five of Swords, she has all the swords. Again, a little bit more pippish, but knowing the Five of Swords really well, this still really works for me. I wouldn't say that I see the meaning of the card illustrated with her body language or anything like that. You could make a case for it, but I would say this one's a little more pippish. This really works for me as the Six of Swords, and I don't think there was an image like this in the Akashic edition. She's got all 6 swords, and it almost looks like she's getting ready to leap from this moon to this moon, as if she's like, okay, you know what? It's time. It's time to move to the new. And that really works for the Six of Swords and the idea of transition and like leaving the conflict behind. In the Seven of Swords, you have just, again, a very pippish image, so I feel like there's multiple ways you could read this card. Let's see what the book says on this one. Are you being truthful and loving in your intentions at this time? If you're being dishonest or secretive in some way in order to gain something, it is suggested that you rethink your approach. Omitting the truth is never a good idea, especially if you're trying to manifest a positive outcome. Look at your options head on. What choice can you make in order to have a positive result? It is also advised that you exercise caution as you may have to deal with potential betrayal or dishonesty from others. Be careful who you choose to confide in or trust. This almost makes me think of, if I were to really look for a meaning in the positioning of these swords, I would say that there's sort of one truth here, but a lot of possible untruths. And like really trying to get to the heart of the matter to find the real sword amidst all these swords could be tricky. But again, I think this is essentially a pip card, which is fine with me. And the Eight of Swords, this is a lot more Rider-Waite-Smith to me. She looks a lot more hemmed in and trapped, but I love that she's already got her hands around the hilt of the sword as if she's ready to move it and actually get on her way. So she's already sort of taking her power back, I feel like, in this image. And again, with the Nine of Swords, we have another sort of pippish image. Now here we've got a much darker landscape, a lot more ominous sort of energy, which works for the anxiety that we normally experience with the Nine of Swords moment. And in the Ten of Swords, we do get that sense of ruin or devastation that we would typically see in the 10. Here we have our page. And I love this. This almost makes me think of like a fantasy novel. I'm almost thinking like this reminds me of like almost like a set of 3 like mystical oracles you go to with your question. This definitely speaks to me, or seems to speak to me, of spiritual messages, or yeah, I don't know. That's giving me some feelings for sure, and I love it. I love the coloring. I've always adored this concept for the Knight of Swords. I think it really speaks to the Knight of Swords to me. It's also got a bit of a Fool style energy, in my opinion, but the Knight of Swords is definitely somebody who has a thought or has an idea and then sort of just jumps right into the situation, jumps right into it, or follows that dream or that idea without necessarily a lot of planning, and that can be both a good and a tricky thing to navigate. I love this Queen of Swords, and I do not remember this character at all from the Akashic edition. Again, I'm immediately seeing chakras. Maybe that's just how I'm wired. I don't think that's necessarily what's intended, because we have 5 sort of stones here, but they feel like a more and more involved third eye. And I'm definitely getting this feeling like the Queen of Swords in this deck is representing somebody whose heart is guarded, the way her arms are crossed over her body here, but who's definitely sees like everything, like she spots everything. There's a lot of sort of vision, clear vision coming through in this image to me. And our King of Swords, who I like that he is like standing in his power, but his sword is pointed down. So he knows not to go right for aggression, right? He's going to be strong and powerful, but not like, you know, not wield his power recklessly. And Wands. Our Ace. The Two of Wands. Now the Two of Wands for me is about sort of possibility or planning. And this works for me here. It's like just beginning to grasp hold of an idea and sort of, it's just barely starting to become a thing that's tangible. And then in the Three of Wands, we're really sending that work off to be done. This works for me totally. It's almost like the same feeling you have when you blow on a dandelion that's turned into one of those little powder puffs. It's like you focus on your goal or your wish or what it is you're trying to manifest, and you send that intention outward. This is very much that first step of making anything happen, creatively or otherwise. In the Four of Wands, we have this pause and this beautiful lighting. This is very similar to the Akashic, but the coloring is much different, and I love it. It's a lot warmer and more golden, especially through this middle part. And I really love the way that this feels, as if there's just a moment to just enjoy a beautiful sunny afternoon, a moment to celebrate the where you've gotten so far. My personal keyword for the Four of Wands is milestone, so that really works. And the Five of Wands, this feels actually a little bit more Five of Swordsy to me, like you've won, you've got all the sticks, but you look like you maybe lost your friends in the process, which to me is more of a Five of Swords kind of energy. But I can definitely work with it, and I see fives as conflict. I see them as competition in the Wands. This is interesting to me. Let's just see. Every time I'm seeing one that I'm like hesitating, I just want to look in the guidebook. This is how I read in my real life though, so it is what it is. You may be experiencing some setbacks as this time, as other ideas or values may clash with your own. Okay. It could be that you find yourself up against someone else who is equally ambitious as you are. If you feel as though you have stumbled, it's time to pick yourself up again. Now more than ever, it is important that you stay true to yourself and make your priorities clear. This card is not about teamwork, but your personal goals and dreams, which is interesting. It's almost like she's been handed all these other sticks, all these other opinions, all this other feedback, and here's her too. And she's kind of focusing on the wrong thing. She needs to refocus on her own stuff. I like that. And the Six of Wands, this person celebrating the accolades or the victory. That works imagery-wise for me. This one, I believe, was the same as the Akashic, but again with different coloring. I like the better contrast in this card. And I like the way that she has the higher ground, which is something I look for in my Seven of Wands. And the Eight of Wands, I love this. It feels to me like they're actually pulling this energy down, and it's like coming in, and I love that. It's almost like a more intense version of the Three of Wands in a way. Rather than just sort of manifesting a wish, we're actually sort of pulling down all of the things that we have been working for. And sometimes we get more than we really bargained for, but we are getting what we asked for. Just a cool energy. The Nine of Wands. This almost looks like a dream catcher to me, and this idea of sort of protection, of guarding, that works. And the Ten of Wands. This one's similar to the Akashic. I think the imagery is the same. Again, I think the color is different. I'm curious what the take is on this. The guidebook still doesn't really define what you see in the image. It just gives you the message, but let's see what it says. After all you have achieved, you may feel overburdened by responsibilities, finding yourself overworked or off balance. It is the sense of living a dual life, one with responsibilities, the other with dreams and hopeful aspirations. As a result, your initial goals and desires may seem faded from your present situation. It may be a good time to accept help from others and prioritize what is truly necessary. How are you growing spiritually from your actions? What can you remove or cut out in order to reduce some of the pressure on yourself? I like this because you see that there's really only 7 wands that are dark and 3 that are light. And you get the idea that what is being sacrificed while these are being kept up in the air. Maybe we need to rescue some of these, cut some of these away. That actually works for me. I love this Page of Wands, and I do not remember her at all from the Akashic. I love this white wolf by her side. I love her sort of white. I love all the white in this card and the idea that this is somebody who could be very spiritually connected, somebody who's got a sense of magic and wonder. Love that. Our Knight of Wands definitely looks like somebody who is a dreamer for sure. Again, love the lit up heart chakra or solar plexus chakra there. The Queen of Wands. I love that she's got this like big black wolf or wolf dog or dog with her. She's got this very like embodied, powerful energy. Totally works for me. King of Wands. Oh, I like him. He's got a little bit of heat and passion to just the way he's like dressed and the way that the shirt's kind of part open. And I mean, I'm not into boys, but I'm just saying this gives you a little bit of that sort of like sensual energy that the King of Wands can have. This is often a very dynamic individual, a very charming individual, a dreamer and a visionary. This works for me. I keep saying this works for me. Like, I'm not going to stop. Let's just be real. Ace of Cups. I love that the Ace of Cups has all of those crystals on it. Love, love, love. Love, 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 love. Oh, I really enjoy this Two of Cups, and we've got this person here. It's interesting to me because we often see the Two of Cups as two people who've come together. I like that I can actually see a blue cup and a pink cup, and while I recognize that blue and pink is sort of boy and girl is kind of silly, to me it's an interesting way to determine or to represent opposites. You could pick any two colors. It doesn't have to be blue and pink. Could have been orange and green, right? Doesn't matter. But what I do like is the way that you see these two cups sort of equally giving and receiving to one another, and this person down here. So it gives me the idea that you could A, find this with yourself, and B, this also could be somebody who's dreaming about this, who's hoping for this, who's been waiting for this energy perhaps, and is finding it, or it's around the corner. I really enjoy that. The Three of Cups, I love that each of these cups is holding a slightly different mix of crystals, and that's a detail that I don't feel like I picked up from the original, or from the Akashic. This is technically the original. From the Akashic edition. I really love this. I love the Siamese cat here, and again, I feel like I didn't have that in the deck before, in the Akashic edition. Again, maybe the colors just made that cat look too washed out, or maybe it wasn't there. I'm not sure, but I really enjoy the cat in this card. I like the fact that she seems very like, things are fine, but she's like a little bit in that space of it's stable, but she looks a little bored. She looks a little listless. She looks a little bit ready for something different. And if you've ever known a Siamese cat, they can be a little bit like this, a little bit like aloof and a little bit like hard to reach. And sometimes that's the energy of the Four of Cups. The Five of Cups. This is where we normally have our sadness, our grief. Interestingly here, there's actually 4 cups still full and only one has been tipped over and has been emptied of its contents. And I think this is a beautiful way to illustrate this card. We typically see like 3 cups are spilled and 2 remain. Or maybe it's 2 cups spilled and 3 remain. Why can I suddenly not remember? But I really like that most of the cups are still there. And when we're feeling grief, it may feel like we've lost everything, but often there's still so many blessings that remain. The Six of Cups, I love that she's looking back at this sort of starlit castle. As far as like a reminiscing kind of card, that really works. Let's make sure we're staying in frame here. The Seven of Cups, each cup has a slightly different crystal in it. That really works for the Rider-Waite-Smith meaning of that card. And the Eight of Cups. Now, I don't remember the Eight of Cups fully from the Akashic edition, but I feel like it didn't have somebody who was clearly walking away as this character really is. Love this. I love that she's definitely taking a turn and she's moving away from these established cups. I really think that works, and it's one of the cards where I really like to see that imagery present. The Nine of Cups. I love the waterfalls. I love the emotional abundance. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good Nine of Cups, and this one definitely fits the bill. I really like it when it doesn't feature just like a person with a bunch of wine or something, because to me it's about so much more. It's about that sort of emotional contentment, emotional fulfillment, like emotional bounty. And because we see emotions as water, because water and emotions are linked as symbols, this idea of like an overflowing fountain or waterfall really, really works for me in this card. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And the Ten of Cups. And I also enjoy that this is not like a nuclear family, so to speak, but instead we have all 10 cups. We have the idea of completion, and we have 3 figures here. So this could be any sort of found family or made family. It doesn't have to be like a romantic relationship, white picket fence moment. It can be a, you know, I have my people, I have found my place, and I feel seen and accepted. I love this. Page of Cups. She seems almost kind of like melancholy or stern. I'm not sure I love her facial expression, to be honest. I see the Page of Cups as somebody who tends to look off to the side, to be a little bit more dreamy, daydreamy, watery. she's not my favorite, and the Page of Cups is one of my significators. I'll see if she grows on me, but that's like the only card where I'm like, kind of meh about. Love that the Knight of Cups is a woman in this deck. The Knight of Cups is somebody who definitely, whose head gets turned based on where her heart is pulling her. And I like that we have a cup here and a cup here, and her gaze is over here to this one, almost as if she's forgotten about that one. That can be a common thing with the Knight of Cups kind of personality. Queen of Cups. I love this. I love that the water here is like a pool of starlight or a pool of stars. And the King of Cups, definitely in the water, in his emotion, very comfortable, confident, all the chakras aligned. Love that. Whew, let's zoom out. We'll take a look at the guidebook. We'll take a look at how the cards shuffle. Oh, you guys, that rose petal finish. They are slightly clumpy, but as a brand new rose petal deck, usually clumps a lot more than that. Let's see how they shuffle. Now, this is a larger deck. I should have brought a standard to compare. I have larger hands. The cardstock is a little stiff, but I won't have any trouble. I think this would hand over hand pretty well. Oh, the cards slide much nicer than a rose petal will typically. I've been really liking decks that have come out with this more slick or smooth. They are clumping, like as you can see, they are clumping. Well, I guess I should hold it that way. You can kind of see how they clumped. They are going to, I think, get a lot easier to riffle shuffle or hand over hand shuffle as you work with them, because they did come out of the box a little bit stiff. The cardstock feels really luxurious and a little bit thicker, but it has a bend for sure. I'll take one card out to show you. But I'm having, again, I have stronger hands and bigger hands, but yeah, it feels like it's got some bend to it. I'll be curious if anybody mods this deck and takes the gilding off, but I'm looking at you, Dawn Michelle, if you happen to be watching this video. I'd be curious what it would look like if anybody modded it, but I don't think I would want to. I really, really love the backs, but they also would work well for a modified deck. I love the size. I don't know what it is. I really like these larger decks, so I don't mind that at all. It can be a little bit of a pain laying them out in a spread, but man, these pink backs, I literally can't stop staring at them. All right, let me give them another rifle. We'll see if we can fan them out at all, although I'm not overly optimistic. I've read a bunch of entries, so I guess I don't need to do that bit. So actually, let me just set these aside for a minute. We'll fan them in a moment. Let's take a look at the guidebook. So we have the Starchild Tarot. I'll zoom us in a bit here again. There we go. Starchild Tarot. There's a dedication. We have our table of contents, an intro, healing with the tarot, reading the Starchild, internal forces, cleansing, shuffling, tarot spreads, a little bit about starseeds. I don't identify as a starseed. There's some spreads here, including a starseed spread, a Celtic cross, and some 3-card spreads with a bunch of different ideas for 3 cards. Let's see here. A little bit of an introduction to the minor arcana and each of the suits. Some information on the court cards. And, oh, this is cool. Characteristic of wands. So astrological correspondences are Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. There's a bit about the fire element, and it does the same thing for each of the 4 minor arcana suits. And then the crystals. Oh yeah, that's the air. Wait a minute. A few changes have been made throughout the Starchild Tarot. For instance, instead of the typical suit of pentacles, oh, this is explaining that you have crystals instead. So it's just explaining why you have crystals instead of pentacles or coins. And then we get right into the card meanings. So again, as I was saying before, you have your message. You have in the major arcana these questions that I think you could easily use as journal prompts, some additional meanings, which are just additional keywords essentially, and then you have a reversed message if you read reversals. Now, I don't read reversals, but I will use card positions to take a look at shadow, and sometimes I just intuitively know when to look at shadow. So I use reversed meanings for that. I think it's a really nice little guidebook. I love that it fits in the box. So yes. That is exciting. All right, let's give these a little bit of a fan out. I have to say, I know I took like a bazillion minutes on this particular, oh, they're fanning okay considering their rose petal finish. I just have to go nice and slow. Oh, I've got to zoom us back out still. Oh no, Lisa. Okay, let's zoom us back out. That's what we look like all fanned out. It actually came out pretty good. I just had to go slow. So that, my friends, is the Starchild Tarot. This is the new printing of the first edition Starchild. I am really, really excited. Again, there was 2 different box design options. I chose, I think it's called the Rose Portal box, but I'm really pleased with this deck. I'm so glad I picked it up. I feel like I got tons of good intuitive hits off of it. I'd be really curious to hear what you guys think about it down below, so definitely let me know. If you enjoyed this more lengthy walkthrough, please be sure and give this video a like with the little thumbs up button down below before you go. If you're new here, welcome. I do lots of walkthroughs and other tarot deck and magic and witchcrafty kind of talk, so definitely stay connected by hitting the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of my future videos, make sure you hit the little bell down below so that you get notifications and you'll know whenever I put up a new video or I do spontaneous live streams, which I do sometimes do. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really enjoyed doing this walkthrough. I can't wait to see you in the next video. And remember, if you want to book a reading with me, you can do that over at supportivetarot.com. Also, don't forget to check out my second channel, which is called Tarot with Lisa, and you will see a link to that in the description box down below. Okay, I think that's it for my outro. Thanks so much, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!